Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to a Celtic World Tactical Review, the early edition. Unfortunately, we can't record live tomorrow night at our usual slot. So we're up nice and early to do a deep dive into Celtic 4, Dundee United 0, the first game in Martin O'Neill's second stint as interim manager at Celtic Football Club. Michael Nicholson got in the DeLorean, went back in time, and here we are again, repeating a bit of a cycle. But thankfully, that cycle was repeated with a victory. As always, I'm joined by Paul Massey as we're going to look at the game. Paul, thank you for joining me nice and early on a Sunday morning. Coffee in hand. It feels a little bit different. But the most important thing is it feels nice to wake up with a Celtic victory.
Yeah, it does. And look, apologies to anyone who will miss us as a live show. Unfortunately, a mate of mine has prematurely passed away, so there'll be a funeral held tomorrow locally here, which I will be in attendance for. And in Scottish send-off style, I doubt I will be sufficiently able to both mentally and probably physically able to conduct the show in the normal time slot. So apologies, this is the next best thing we could do. Obviously, some sad news for me, but ultimately his friends and family. So yeah, we're doing this now, and I appreciate Anthony taking the time to move the schedule around to accommodate this. So hopefully you still enjoy the content, and yeah, we'll get into the details of the game shortly. But yeah, I about as good as you could hope for in terms of a result on the back of what has been a pretty disappointing and tumultuous few weeks. Thankfully, that nightmare is now over. It's far from perfect, obviously, but these group of players that we know need reinforcements, and we know some of them are probably not quite at the level we really need for long-term progression. It's been night and day in terms of how they've looked yesterday to the last few weeks. So yeah, really good start under Martin O'Neill again.
Yeah, no, look, we recorded our show last week 2.5 hours before it was announced that Wilfred Nancy had been emptied, as the expression goes. So we thought that was a little bit inconsiderate of the Celtic board. But meant I was also up all night on Monday night, just trying to get my head around after nailing my colours to the mast saying that we're going to be stuck with Wilfred for a while yet. So pretty glad to have been proven wrong on that one. So, I'll put my hand up. When I didn't quite get it right, the board and Michael Nixon acted decisively for once. And then obviously the leaks in the media this week, Steve McGowan in the Herald talking about the quality of training and very sort of schoolboy level. It's a wonder it lasted 33 days, to be honest, or 30 days or however long it lasted. So yeah, in some eyes, yes, that ended quite prematurely, but by all accounts, it probably could have ended after about 2 or 3 matches, by the sounds of things. So, like I said, not going to dwell on it too much. Martin's back in the building, and more importantly, he's got Sean Maloney and Mark Fotheringham with him. And I don't think that can be underestimated because, I think the big guy's personality is quite infectious, and sort of like I saw him sort of congratulating all the players walking off the park last night, and very sort of just getting that feel-good factor back. Because ultimately, I'd argue the players are even more lower than they would have been after Brendan Rodgers departing. Because all right, the football under Brendan wasn't great, but it wasn't. We're still getting results most of the time. But to have sort of 6 losses in 8 games and then to sort of bounce back, which, like I say, we're going to get into right now. But yeah, like I said, just it's been a bit of a roller coaster week. Just like I said, we came off air last week, and it was like we've got more of this to come. These sort of dreadful performances, and then to sort of see that on the weekend or last night was nice. So yeah, so like I say, it's hopefully onwards and upwards. We'll put a bit of pressure back on Rangers and Hearts, all to play for. And I guess Auchinleck Talbot are probably a little bit sort of annoyed that Wilfred didn't hang around for a couple more weeks, but we've got Falkirk during the week, and then the cup round on the weekend. So yeah, lots to look forward to and lot to play. But let's, without any further ado, get into the match that happened last night at Celtic Park. So, Paul, we've got a team sheet here. We don't have to be a tactical review to sort of say that the most obvious thing here is we've gone back to a back four. And you could argue whether it's a 2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, but the important thing is that there are 4 defenders. So immediately everyone feels a little bit more at ease. So Araujo getting his first start at right back in place of Anthony Ralston. Liam Stales returned to the starting lineup as well at left centre back. And then obviously Tierney at left back, Trusty centre half, right side centre half, McGregor and Engels anchoring at midfield. And then you brought the likes of Yang, Hatate, Tinekti, and Maeda. And Tinekti back from AFCON after I don't actually know how I was meant to have a look and see how he went at AFCON, but he's back.
He didn't play much. He played from the bench. Didn't get on in every game. I don't know any more than that in terms of performance.
So he'll be fresh.
Yeah, he shouldn't. He's not played a hell of a lot of football, so he's had probably a little holiday. With a little bit.
So, Paul, I mean, you woke up this morning because you watched the game live, not live, but live without knowing the result. How are you feeling seeing that team lineup?
Well, I actually I usually on these sort of 11, 12, 1 o'clock kickoffs, I usually try and get an hour or two sleep beforehand and then get back up and watch the game and then go back to bed. I was absolutely exhausted yesterday. I saw the team line come out just before I fell asleep, and I was like, that's a bit surprised to see Tinekti come straight back in, but he played a lot under Martin last time, so maybe go back to something that was familiar. Yang deserves to retain his place. He's been a bit one of the few bright spots over the last few weeks. You knew we were going to go back to centre back, so back four. So really, the only decision was: are you going to start Arejo or one of Ralston or Donovan? You'd have thought Donovan would have been the likelier starter, given how Ralston's confidence will be over the last few weeks, and obviously that's what happened for the bench later. I would disagree with the sort of holding two. Whilst I'm a fan of that, I don't think that's really how it was structured. It was back to McGregor as holding up in front of the centre backs, and Engels and Hatate in front. Engels mainly occupying the right hand side, so he was linking up with Arejo and Yang, and Hatate closer to the left. I'm going to say linking up with Tinekti and Tierney, but his play was pretty poor all around, so there wasn't that much linking up from Reo Hatate. Engels covered a hell of a lot of ground, and still no striker, right? So we're whatever 10, 11 days into the window, so a third of the way through the window, basically. No striker. I haven't had a striker all season, so Maeda gets the nod. Obviously gets his goal, but probably misses a few as well.
I hint of frustration in Maeda as well.
Absolutely frustration for him. Even his finish, and we'll get to that, showed a real sort of anger and frustration as he lashed it into the empty net. We'll get into it, but it's a fantastic result in the circumstances. Let's no bones about it. This is the same group of players that have looked at confused, disillusioned mess for the last month, and with no real additions. Obviously Araujo's come in, but you've basically operating with the same group of players who've looked done and dusted as far as a title challenge, or even being able to win matches, or even put 90 minutes of performance together. Martin comes back with as you say, Sean and Fozzie, and more than anything has managed to bring a degree of happiness back to that dressing room and that squad base. You could see that already. Just relief probably that they're back to doing the jobs that they know how to do and they've played most of their career, as opposed to being asked to do something that they've got no real sort of experience of. It's quite alien. And you saw that in the performance, and we did get a 90-minute performance. So we got a first 90-minute performance since O'Neill's last stint. We got our first clean sheet since O'Neill's last stint. And we got a convincing victory since O'Neill's last stint. Now, it's probably worth saying that this Dundee United team should absolutely be getting dispatched by Celtic at home. But we've fallen so far, and we've been so badly mismanaged. And we have got a weak playing group, both ability-wise and mentality-wise. So you're right. There's no gimmies. But it was a real, I said to you just before we came out, it's about as good a result as you could get in the circumstances. It's just a step, but it's a real positive step forward. And I think, most Celtic fans will be waking up this morning pretty happy with where we are. certainly compared to recent grounds. Now, there's a long way to go to where we should be, but Rome wasn't built in a day, so we'll take it for now. And this group really need reinforcements in. It's kind of disgraceful. Well, it's not kind of, it's absolutely disgraceful that we've not added some kind of striker that can take like anyone that's vaguely fit and been scoring goals already this season should be able to get a first pick in this team. So yeah, that could be a loan player from somewhere else that hasn't really been getting game time, but really wants to push forward for the World Cup. And obviously messed around with Kyogo. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. I was vocal saying that if we could make that happen early, that's something you should do, because he
scored last night for Birmingham, so it's definitely not happening now.
So that's not right, but he was part of, I think, a second string because it was FA Cup, right? But he's obviously still in plans, and Chris Davis has come out and said that too. So like, if we were even considering that should have been considered before the window opened, sounded out before the window opened. And if it was a goer, he should have been in the first or second, and he should have been playing against Rangers. And if it wasn't going to happen, move on, do something else. But we're now, whatever we are, the 11th. We're on the 11th. And yes, we're absolutely a third through the window, and we've got no singles. Even if you go, like, people won't really love this idea, but say you think Kieran Bowie might be a good player for the longer term. He's certainly better than Johnny Kenny, right? So even if he's going to be a second or third choice striker, there's money to burn in the bank. Just take £5 million, give it to Hibs. He's in the door. He's immediately in the team. We need two strikers this window, realistically. If another one takes longer to get in, whether that's, you're going to spend even more money, 8, 9, 10, 11, to get somebody you really need that's going to be a mainstay for years to come. Because this is the thing, right? Not every player you want to sign when you don't know who the next manager is, but you'll always need a bloke who can score 25, 30. If you can get somebody in that can score 25, 30 goals a season, every manager would love one of them. So that's the one position we can recruit confidently and spend a decent amount of money and get them in the door, if you can get them in the door. And I appreciate January, it's not always the easiest time for that. But so you could get a second in at the window, or you could get somebody, like I say, fighting for a World Cup place, but it's weighing up options, and maybe they don't come till closer to the end of the window. But we can't really wait for the rest of the window to get a striker in. Like, we've got to get one in. We should have one in already. We certainly need one in this week.
Well,
and another one in before the end of the...
I think Kieran Bowie's a good shout, because what's going to happen, right? At the moment, you probably get between 5 and 6 million quid. He plays another season at Hibs. All of a sudden, his price tag goes
another
up.
half season. He's probably 8 by the end of the season.
And then you miss the boat. Like, he becomes another, all those lads that went to Italy, he becomes another one of them, where as soon as he jumps, his price tag just takes out the equation, whether he's good enough or not. But at the moment, you could get him in your team, he'd be getting starts. So yeah, you're developing him, and he can score goals in the league. So why not take it now? And yeah, all right, he might not be the first choice long-term solution, but he could definitely be a very, very good backup, or he might surprise everybody. He might grow a leg and become your striker who scores 30 goals. Because if he's getting the service, if he's getting the sort of delivery that we were putting on last night, I mean, I have to feel for Sebastian Konecki, because that boy deserved an assist or something, because he put in 3 or 4 really, really good balls, and just nobody there. I might have took a fresh air swing at one of them. It just, like, you felt for the guy. You're going, like, even he's just going, like, what am I supposed to do? And he obviously tried a shot at the end, and Arsenal winded it up, out to Rosette. But like, you're just thinking somebody that sort of penalty box strike, someone who can just sort of like get on the end of these things. Like, we'd make life so much easier for ourselves. Like,
but he's also
3-0 up before,
He's physical. He's good in the air. He holds the ball up. He can link it in. You can get crosses in and he'll attack them. You can get him into feet and he can bring up, like he's nowhere near the finished article. And I know there'll be Celtic fans going, he's not good enough for Celtic. $5 million for £5 million for him is too much. Blah blah blah. But we've seen this movie before, and unfortunately that's where we're at, right? So, and the thing is, for him, he can truck along at Hibs and he's maybe going to make the Scotland squad for the World Cup. If we make that move and he comes in and he gets game time, even if we bring a second striker in and he ends up being a bench rotation, he's still going to get 20 minutes, half an hour every match. And you look at the Greg Taylors of the world and the Anthony Ralstons of the world. You can't tell me they're much better than some of the other players in that World Cup in Scotland squads, but they get a game because they're playing for Celtic, because they know the trainings of a really good standard. They know they're fit. So you leapfrog other players of an equal ability. And they've been exposed to European football and big derbies and stuff like games where it really, really matters. So yeah, like it's not Kieran Bowie or bust for me, but if they find somebody with similar attributes at a similar price bracket, great. But there's a guy there on our doorstep, like is often the case, and like you say, we're priced out of things pretty soon. And look, Hibs would be well within the rights, given the season they're having, to force our hand and make it 6 or 7. But then, like, what does that buy you? That we know winning the league this year is really your only chance of Champions League football. You've got one playoff round. Second doesn't even get you Champions League playoff. It gets you Europa, and then third gets you conference. So it's a super, like, so you always got to win the league, right? But we've got to win the league for that Europe. So you get into Europe, even if you get Europa, you've paid yourself back on the money you pay for Kira Bowie. And if you get into
we need a striker anyway, Paul. This is the thing.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. We badly need one, right? I'm just making multiple cases as to why
it's not like we're getting one for extra, like for spare. Like we just actually literally need a striker. We haven't got one. We need to get back on the game, but just a couple of points I want to make. Yes, I'm very excited that we won the match last night. So we will go into the details and we'll be critical at points, but by and large, the performance was very good given where we've been the last month. So don't think for a second that we're nitpicking or whatever. Like, part of this whole podcast is that we sort of look at the good and the bad. So just want to caveat that. Second thing is, obviously live comments aren't on at the moment, guys, because we've recorded this ahead of time. So feel free to put your comments in the YouTube video. Please like and subscribe to the episode as well, because it does help other like-minded Celts find us online. And the last point I just wanted to make, this is up more to your point about Kyogo. Also, there's a bit of chat about Roberto Martinez potentially being targeted as our permanent manager at the end of the season. I'm just really, really fed up with the lazy is who you know type mentality around transfer targets, appointing managers. We've got to get away from it. We've got to have a robust recruitment process that involves actually assessing who's available all around the world and actually picking players or managers based on their ability, not because, I know him from such and such, or Sean Maloney's worked with Martinez, or that'll be a great fit. Let's just do that. Kyogo worked last time around. Let's just get him back in the door because he's not going too well at Birmingham. Like, it's just lazy. And I know the media probably fuel this to a certain degree, but usually the media are like getting fed tidbits from the club. And if that's the best that we can come up with, then I'm sorry, but that is not world class. That's not even economy class. That's just it's just crap. Like, there's got to be a better way. It's a whole subject for a whole nother podcast, but just for me, I'm fed up with these, like, we're linked to such and such because he played for us a season ago, or he knows him, so we'll get him in. And it very rarely does it ever work out well, does it?
I absolutely agree with you. And Tisdale was a monumental disaster, and thankfully he went too with Nancy, which I guess some of us were potentially surprised about, but also not that surprised, because the board will look for a fall guy that isn't them. And somebody had to wear it, even though Nicholson was bigging up Wilfred Nancy not that long ago, and saying he was backed and all of that. And so he's his man. I noticed one, I think it was maybe in the boys section. It said they had a big banner in the corner. So the boys in the opposite section to the North Curve, just up behind where my season ticket used to be. Actually, my mum still sits in that section. And it said, Nicholson, own your mistakes, resign. And it's spot on. Like, you can't keep making balls of it in any role, especially not in a CEO role of an organisation as big as Celtic, and just palm it off on other people. And the whole we made mistakes, but not explain how you're going to fix those mistakes.
But then he's also looking for a pat in his back, Paul, because he sacked him. You know what I mean? He was ultimately responsible for bringing him in, and then he's looking for a pat in the back, going, "Well, I acted decisively and I got rid of him." It's like,
And that was spun, and some board members didn't want it, but he was the man who made it's bollocks, Anthony. It's a clearly PR spin to try and avoid more heat on him. He should be gone. And then CEO needs replaced. Of course he does. But if you're not going to do that, or you're not going to do that quickly, a director of football is absolutely key. Get a director of football in before, like, in this next 2-3 months, then they can work towards getting a new manager in for the start of this stuff pre-season. The danger, if it is Martinez, and I'm not, I know some people are more enamored with Martinez than others, and it's not to say it couldn't work, but yeah, it is Old Boys Network. And the other thing is he's potentially not going to be available to well through July, because he's working in the World Cup. If you're looking at World Cup managers, he's less experienced, but somebody like Craig Bellamy would be far more up my street in terms of, and again, lazy in terms of he's been through our doors before, but that's like, I've looked at how he's rated. There's a really good article in the BBC a month or so ago in terms of how he's been doing and how he applies himself in his methodology. And I like the look of him, and he's a bit like a player. He's a manager that if someone else gets him and he really kicks on, then he's sort of out of your remit pretty quickly. So, but yeah, I think it's important, to your point, get the right people in above and give them time to get the hiring right, and scour the world.
It's what Martin O'Neill was buying you. He's buying you time.
Yeah,
like the next 6 months are sorted. Like you've got 5 months, to the end of the season. You've bought yourself time. So it's like, use that time wisely.
We'll waste it.
We'll squander it. And we're squandering this transfer window as it is. But all right, Paul, we need to just reel a wee line under it. We could be here for another hour. Yeah. You can tell we're a wee bit fresher because usually we've done a day's work before we do this podcast. So we're like, we're dropping tangents. But anyway, so this was the first chance in the game. So this was the one that ends up with Maeda getting glanced onto the to the crossbar here. So it's Tierney on the halfway line. He gets it into Hatate. Hatate slips it through to Tanekti. He gets a crossover here, and then this is not a great image, but Maeda does manage a touch on this one, and then it's flicked over. So that was the first real sort of chance that was recorded in the BBC highlights. At least I think there was a few other wee sort of half chances prior to that, but that was 20 minutes in. So I'll just take us into the first goal, Paul, because obviously I'm mindful that we've sort of spent a bit of time here. So we've got Hatate on the ball here. He sprays it wide to Araujo. He drives forward. He plays the ball in. It skips over the top here, so it ends up back out at Tanekti. He beats the man here, and then he cuts it back to Liam Stales, of all people. And then Liam Stales squares it to Yang, who has a bit of space here and absolutely creams it into the back of the net. And I think there are a couple of other images here. So again, here he's got the space. But the thing here is he's got the space for himself, but also like he has the composure here to take his touch and get the strike away. Unfortunately, that's the best image that I got. But anyway, Paul, take it away. Goal number one. What are we thinking?
Yeah. Look, it had been coming. If to use a cliche, like we've not talked about the stats or overall for the game, but I think early in the game it was sort of 85-90% possession.
Yeah, it was 90% possession after 20 minutes.
And so it was. Look, we didn't really carve them wide open, like you said. There's a little chance for Maeda, and there's a little, getting around the back. And I think it was maybe early on, maybe definitely before the goal. I think there's a smash across the 6-yard box, and nobody's sort of breaking a neck to get in there. And you'd probably be a little bit disappointed. I think it was Tanekti that played it across, and there's only Kenny and Yang even vaguely close. And sorry, not Kenny, Maeda and Yang vaguely close, and neither of them are really busting a gut to get into that 6-yard box. But this is where we're like, we have to recycle this a few times, and it isn't super clinical, and you can tell the players are still not in full confidence, because there's multiple opportunities through the game to play forward passes that we're in relatively tight space, but players were asking for it, and the player on the ball didn't trust it, or the player waiting for it didn't always ask for it. So you want players to be able to take the ball in tight spaces and rotated 1 and 2 touch, and we're not quite at that level yet. Maybe some of these players just are never going to be at that level, but the confidence hasn't been really there. But yeah, this was good in terms of it didn't really go as slick as it could have done, but it sort of recycled. And then Scales plays a pretty simple ball. Get an assist for that, I guess. Pretty simple ball square to Yang, and Yang's confidence is obviously up ahead of most players, given his performances recently, and his goal and overall performance against Rangers was excellent, actually. And so I was really pleased for him. Yeah, composure, took the time, got out from his feet, and great hit, low, hard, in the corner. Keeper's got no chance. But we kind of needed it, sort of 27-ish minutes, I think, at this point.
26 minutes, yep.
Yeah, and you sort of like, what these home games can look like. You dominate everything. You don't get the breakthrough. Crowd gets restless. Players get nervous. It can start to be a difficult afternoon. So brilliant to get the goal. Yang thoroughly deserved it, and we as a team deserved it, even though we didn't carve out super clear-cut chances. In terms of overall domination of the ball, really important. But then I think you've got the the next images are us nearly throwing it away again as soon as we got in the lead.
This was literally 3 minutes later. So yeah, I'm just trying to So this is the ball. So it's a long ball through. Trusty here, very, very lazy with his outside of his right foot, trying to play it to nthony. And then you've got the Dundee United player just running through on goal. He intercepts. And Liam Stales, I mean, just take back a slide here. Liam Stales is here. So he's behind the play. And he makes up some amount of distance in such a short amount of time. I mean, even from here, you think the boy's about to strike the ball, and somehow, I've watched that about 5 times. I don't know how he's managed it, but he's literally managed to intercept and get that block in, because at the moment, you've not really got much confidence in Schmeichel down low. So, Stales has made an absolute lung-busting run there and covered Austin Trusty. And I guess this is probably what we've missed in a way defensively. I mean, it sounds a bit silly. It's like, well, if Trusty just looks after the ball better, it's a non-issue. But Liam Stales, the one thing you can't fault him, the two things, is that those sort of defensive headers from corner kicks and crosses, like he usually gets his big ginger napper on the end of it. And then also in situations like this, he does usually read the shot and block quite well.
Yeah.
Just from another angle there. Sorry, that's all the images I've got. But like I said, I mean, incredible. Yep.
There was a couple of times in possession that Scales did what he did and overran it, or lost possession, or gave a poor pass away. And obviously that's the downside of having him in the team. But this is absolutely the upside of him being in the team. And I guess it shows the flaws and lack of ability in man management in Wilfried Nancy, and the dogmaticness of his decision making. That got a player who, let's not forget, he was, and we've said it before, relatively low bar because it's been a poor season. But he was on for Celtic's Player of the Year prior to Nancy arriving, and he switched him to part of a back three, and he was all at sea. And look, you can say that's partly on Liam Scales because he's got his limitations. But if you've got limitations and you haven't got a deep squad because of injury and lack of recruitment, then you need to find a way to use them to the best of their ability. And that's exactly what Rodgers did, and now what Martin O'Neill's doing again. He did it before the Nancy debacle, and he's done it again now. So, and Kenneth Scales, if anything, is probably to some degree not as affected by the Nancy situation as others, because he hasn't played as much time.
He's not featured.
After the initial experiment and realized he couldn't do it, he was just hooked from the team, and he was only ever put in as an absolute last resort. So yeah, this is what he's great at. And there was he read a couple of things second half as well, where there was some danger lurking, and he just stepped across and took balls away from players. So look, everyone knows I'm not Liam Scales' biggest fan, but we're in a situation where we need Liam Scales at the moment. And what you do need is a confident Liam Scales playing to the best of his ability and utilising the best way possible. And that is on the left-hand side of a back four. So glad to see it. He really snuffed out the danger there. Trusty, and I've been critical of Trusty, and with the caveat that he's been kind of left as a sole defender under the Nancy regime. But it's just slack. Like, he's got time. He's just a bit casual.
He had one or two ropey moments. Like, there was that one, and there was another one again. I was like, can we not have two centre halves that actually play well at the same time? Like, can we only ever have one good one and one like shaky one? Like, it's like he's been playing well. I thought Trusty. All right, the game before last, he didn't play particularly well, but up until that point, he was asked to do a lot, and I thought, well, he's doing it to the best of his ability. But yeah, I was like, it brings Scales back in. He actually plays all right. And then Trusty has a bit of a mare. It's just like, oh, come on, guys. Like,
I think it's all the shuffling about, though. It's all the shuffling about. It's just like he's been asked to play centre of the only one back, and now he's back to being predominantly on his right side. But yeah, I think he was just a bit lax and a bit slack, and we could have been punished here. And that would have been very typical of how the Nancy regime went and what has been happening to us. So it was great that Scales managed to stuff it out, because minutes later we do what we haven't been able to do under Nancy and score a second goal. Yeah.
So this was a great. I love this goal. As much we might be in the Arnie Engels fan club, but this was a good goal. So Hattati sort of driving forward, Engels in space, plays the ball in. Engels does a wee 1-2 here with Kieran Tierney, who also has acres of space to run into. And I think this is a good thing about this goal is everyone's moving into space. So it's not. This is one of the few occasions where we weren't static and you're trying to play wall passes with defenders up your arse sort of thing. This was more fluid, it was more dynamic, and Dundee United just couldn't sort of handle it. So plays the ball into nthony here, who's in acres of space. He drives into the edge of the box. He finds Engels, who's making a very well-timed run, sort of half marked, half not. And ball's coming over. And then he just absolutely drills it past the keeper's right-hand side into the bottom corner. An absolutely beautiful goal and well worked. And it's just like, it makes it football look so dead simple at times. Like, it's like, why can't we just do that all the time? But I guess the one thing you have to be pretty critical, that's not a great image. That one thing you've got to be pretty critical of Dundee United is they weren't really pressing us in that first half. And I think, to be fair, they probably tried to press us for about 5 minutes in the second half and then gave up because they just knew they were on a hide into nothing. But they just camped in the box. You can see here there's like seven Dundee United players in the box, but we're the ones moving. And nthony here, really good low cross delivery. What else is there to say? I mean, it's a brilliant goal, 2-0, well deserved, and you just felt I felt relieved after that. I went, well, 2-0, that's where we should be. Let's just make sure we can put in a performance in the second half and get a win.
Yeah, look, this is a classic O'Neill goal. Like, O'Neill's teams, and he said, like, same, that's what Clough tried to do, is try and make the game simple. Give it to guys in space, run off for each other to make space, get balls in the box, get late runners into the box, and get shots on target. And they've worked it really well. Like, I was critical of Hatate at the top of the show, and I'd forgotten that he was involved in the first 2 goals, albeit earlier in the build-up. But I was probably, my view was coloured by some of the stuff he did later on. But yeah, Engels is at the heart of it. Tierney sees the run. And actually, that, like, it looks simple, but that's a pretty difficult finish. It's a first-time finish. The keeper's on that side. Like, he reads that the keeper's obviously going to be off balance. So he's, if you show that angle in front of the goal, there's hardly any space to work with in terms of where the keeper is positioned versus the post it goes in at. So yeah, look, the keeper's covering that. The keeper's beyond the front post there, and then at this point of the strike, he's kind of covering the front post, but he's off balance because he's obviously trying to protect the rest of his goal. And Engels just sort of side foots it, almost passes it into the net. So it's a really composed finish for a player who's been under fire from the fan base for most of this season. Been in and out of the team, confidence obviously affected, price tag probably still hanging heavy. But yeah, as you said, you and I are both fans of him, and I think given time and support, coaching, and the right environment and good players around him, this kid can go to a really high level. He's nowhere near the finished article, but he's starting to add goals to his game, and goals from open play as opposed to penalties, which has been a criticism of him from others, albeit that penalties have seemed to be quite difficult for us to convert over the last few years. So I'll take anyone that scores penalties. But yeah, great goal, and really pleased for Engels and the team in general.
I just felt with Engels last night, there was 2 things. One, he kept finding pockets of space. So either driving into the space or picking the ball up in space. And he's the sort of player you want in that situation because he can find a pass. So that was one thing I felt. He had a lot more space than normal. So whether he was just picking up better areas, I'm not sure. Like, I had a bit to do with the fact that the United weren't really pressing all that hard either. But you still got to punish teams when they give you the space. And I felt that whenever he got on the ball, I felt like something was going to happen. And then the second thing is, I felt that our right-hand side was a lot more potent last night as well. So that was obviously Engels' side. So Araujo, obviously a big part of that. He looks incredibly comfortable on the ball. So, no disrespect to Anthony Ralston, but I just felt that he was very comfortable. He was very good with Yang, either underlapping, overlapping, just the interplay. It looked like they'd been playing together for quite some time. So I think that's a positive sort of mark in his book, but also, that triumvirate of Engels, Yang, and Araujo just sort of, it looked pretty good. So all of a sudden, you had threat down the left with Kieran Tierney and Tinekti, and then you had threat down the right-hand side as well. And it's like, all of a sudden, you've got balance. So from Dundee United's point of view, they don't know which side it's coming from. And we were patient. I mean, that first goal, I think it was like 33 passes or something like that. It was, we were patient. Like, we didn't pull the trigger early. We sort of just kept working it side to side. I'm thinking, are we being a bit too pedestrian here? And it's like, well, actually, no. Like, if they're going to sit in, then you're going to make them work. So you're going to have to push it side to side, side to side. And we did that. We did that on numerous occasions, and we ended up, like I say, we got a couple of goals out of it. So, it wasn't all rush football. At times we tried to play that pass through, and again, varying degrees of success. But we sort of had to make Dundee United work for it a little bit as well, and try and tire them out. And like I say, the interplay looked pretty good for a team that, like you say, low in confidence and playing a different style like a week ago. There's a lot to like here. So next images, this was 3 minutes after the goal. This was the Araujo tackle, Paul. Actually, I haven't brought it up. Sorry, I was okay. I actually brought it up. So this was these images aren't great. So he sort of lunged in here. I don't know whether this image is going to be better. So I mean, it's hard to say from that angle how high up he is, but he definitely clatters him.
Yeah, look, I think it's a kind of tackle. He doesn't have to make it, right? He's second best at that all day long. He's never going to get to the ball. So I think point one is he doesn't have to make the challenge. He can stand this guy up and just, this is, I can't remember, this is the winger that got himself injured and sort of limped about and all of that. Is it Will something or other? Yes, he doesn't have to make the tackle. But I don't, like, I first look, I was like, hold on, looks a bit ropey, but I don't think there's any more than a yellow in this. It's clumsy more than anything. And it's a bit, I think it's probably a wee bit reckless, but it's probably not. It doesn't probably fit the category for endangerment of a player. Oh yeah, it's the tackle that injures the guy, actually, doesn't it? Because he goes to take the free kick and he's limping about because he wouldn't go off.
Will Ferry. I think, I had a feeling he was limping before that, though. Maybe, but I'd sort of nodded off a bit. He sort of went down a few. He went down a few times.
Yeah, I think majority were post this though. Although I do think he maybe had some sort of thigh injury later on. And that's obviously not a thigh injury. This is probably an impact injury there. But yeah, I just think I'll give him a benefit of doubt, a bit rusty. And while we're talking about Araujo, it's probably a good time to say I basically sum up how his performance was. I thought he obviously played 60 minutes. I think that's probably all that was in his tank based on the fact that he's played very little football. I think he played only a couple of games all year. He only played 1 or 2 for Bournemouth, and obviously he got some time off the bench the other day. But I think he showed enough going forward, at least, to, as you said, he linked the play well and that he looked confident in the ball. If anything, a bit too confident in the ball in defensive positions for my liking. Like he wanted 2 or 3 touches just to assess where he was going to be. And then obviously he'll learn that teams in Scotland will try and press you at the back to force a mistake. And then that leads to it being recycled or going back to the keeper. And I just liked him to maybe get it out of his feet and play it forward early when he's in his deeper positions, but certainly higher up the pitch. Confident in the ball, good interchange, passing looks decent, movement looks good. So yeah, I think whilst he's rusty and he's been a while before he's probably playing 90 minutes, O'Neill obviously rates Donovan, and he's got, an international fullback, however way you want to look at it, in Ralston as well. So we've now got decent cover to some degree on there until Alistair Johnston's back.
If we're playing an out right back, we've got 3 players for 1 position. I mean, effectively, don't we? Like,
yeah.
And I was glad that Donovan got the nod, because I kind of felt like he was the one left out sort of thing with the whole Nancy saga. So I'm sort of glad that he got, and I didn't really think he put a foot wrong. Either way, he made a couple of good recovery runs and got back in, so it did sort of ton of pace. So I said, ain't a lot. I think we've sort of got that right-sided defensive situation sorted. I think we just need Srirachi back. I don't know what the mood music is or how far away he is, but if we can get him back in at left back to cover Tierney, give you another option there, then all of a sudden defensively we're probably looking okay-ish. And it's really further up the park. I mean, it's end of the day.
If you could find another centre back. Either on loan or again, a good centre back, something you can never really go wrong with, I guess, unless you're not going to play any. Hopefully, we're not going back to that again in a hurry. But yeah, so a decent centre back, or like I say, I'm on record as more than once saying that this window for me should really be about loans to get the job done.
Just bolstering the squad. It's just giving you a wee bit of wiggle room in case you do pick up an injury as well. Like, you need a bit of cover.
As I keep banging on, it's a World Cup year. There must be tons of players globally that are on the fringes of their club side, but really want to push for a spot in their country's World Cup squad. So get them in, give them game time, give them an opportunity to bag a place in the World Cup squad. That to me seems an absolute no-brainer. I'm not usually a big advocate of loan deals, but given where we're at, an interim manager, a season to push on and try and win as many trophies and games as we can, and it being a World Cup year, it sort of makes sense to me that that's what you do. Right. And there you go.
This was Dundee United's probably best chance of the game, right before half time. So ball gets played in here to Sturton,
I think it is.
Sturton, yeah. And he creates a good bit of space for himself here. He manages to sort of do a turn here and send Araujo and Trusty the wrong way. Obviously, I didn't get a better image of it, but he sort of he squeezes it wide and doesn't get it on target. But I guess again, it's just probably this was the other Austin Trusty sort of mistake here, where he sort of should have been sort of touch tight. But yeah, I would say Araujo was absolutely picking him up, but Trusty should be sort of sniffing at the danger here. Just Stales is here. But like I say, somehow they both end up being Celtic dummy. But thankfully, not the best strike from the United man, and we go in 2-0 up.
Yeah, he chokes it a bit here. He should do better. But yeah, it's a bit worrying. Once Trusty's out of position, and so in the one hand, Arejo's done a good job in terms of coming across and covering, but they both get sold a dummy, and they're both off for a pie together when Sturton should be scoring, or at least testing Schmeichel. And the way Schmeichel's been diving low, you'd fancy him to score, but yeah, he chokes a strike and it just dribbles past the left-hand post as we look at it, Schmeichel's right-hand post. There was one other opportunity in this half for United, which doesn't look like we've got coverage of. It was that I can't remember how it sort of arrived, but there was sort of it came from down our left, or down our right, their left. The ball just sort of, player just found himself in tons of space, and he played that big deep cross to the back post, and the player arriving on it at the other end.
Oh yes,
sort of caught in two minds as to whether to sort of take a shot on the first time, which would have been a pretty difficult technique, or try and bring it down, and he sort of did neither, and it bounced away from him, and so it came to nothing. But it was a really good it was a great delivery, and it was a good opportunity if the guy had just managed to make a decision one way or the other.
He had Tierney beat, but like you say, he was in two minds. He sort of it was a half shot, half try to take a touch, and just obviously didn't end up doing either. But yeah,
it was just it's just a bit concerning that they had offered absolutely nothing, and there's still, and this is the thing. While obviously it was a great result and a great day, we are still quite vulnerable at the back. And yeah, look, it'll take a bit of time to settle back into 4-3-3 and all of that. But yeah, it is just a little bit concerning that a team better than United would probably have punished us with hardly anything of the ball, which I guess is symptomatic of where we've been in recent times, and something we need to try and minimise as we move over these sort of big games over the next few weeks.
All right, so I've got two missed chances here, so just try to run them both back to back. So we've got Hatate blasting over at 47 minutes, and then we've got Tinekti at 56 minutes doing a wonderful bit of jiggery pokery on the touchline and manages to cut the ball back. And unfortunately, Maeda does a wee bit of fresh air swing on this one. So just try to run through these fairly quickly. So Hatate on the ball here, plays it out wide. Araujo cuts it across. Bounces. Oh, this is the one that bounces over the top. So Tinekti sort of manages to beat the two defenders here, cut back in, and then he's basically cut it back for Hatate, who's running onto it. And then he, at this point, it looks like it's drawn towards the goal, but it goes way over. And then this is the second. This is the second chance on 56 minutes. So Liam Stales, of all people, bursting into space. Ball gets played out to Tinekti here, and then again he's 2-on-1, manages to get to the byline. Good sort of cut back here, or cut back but square ball. Maeda here, and again I don't have a better image of it, but basically misses it from basically any it hits any body part that is in the back of the net because the keeper's beat, but unfortunately not to be. So this is the lead up to the goal. So this is on 63 minutes. So we've got a drive in here from Engels. He hits it. Keeper makes an absolute stuff up with the save. Ball was down.
No, that's the next one's the keeper. That one hits the defender's heel and squirts to Nygren.
Sorry. Yeah. And then Nygren here just bringing out the sand wedge. I mean, fair play to the guys that were a bit composure here because they're all trying to get on top of him, and he's just managed to just that image is terrible, but yeah, manages to sort of chip it into the top corner of the goal there. I sort of was running out of time getting all these images.
That's a really good image because before that, it's even deeper in his feet, so he has to dig it out of his feet before he can even do that. So, I think it squirts off the heel of the United defender. Like Engels is cut back on his left, so not his stronger side, but his confidence is up. Obviously, he's got a goal already, and he hits a shot towards goal. And yeah, United don't get the break of the ball. It squirts off the defender. But Nygren, we've talked about him a lot on this show. He is frustrating, but he is a top goal scorer, and I think it's partly because he takes up good positions. He gets himself into areas where you're gonna score goals. He sneaks in at the back post. He picks up space. You were talking about utilizing space. When Engels is shaping up for that, he's just drifted back towards the penalty spot, and then when this squirts out, he sort of gets in on it. He gets it under his feet, and then he gets a little touch out, and then as you say, he gets sort of sandwich out. That's a great image because, like, from there, he doesn't look favourite to score from there. Albeit, like in live time, you think, oh, you've got to score, but it's actually very difficult to score. And keep defender in behind, keeper spreading himself. He does really well to chip it into the top corner. So, yeah, and at that point, we're home and hosed, and it's everything that we weren't under Nancy. We have missed chances, as you've just shown, with a couple that we probably should have done better on. But we continue to create chances and take chances. And at this point, if it wasn't already, then the game's done and dusted it here. And yeah, we can enjoy the remaining half an hour or so.
Well, I mean, I'm sitting there half time going, like, I don't see us capitulating like we've done under Nancy. I thought we'll just, it should be more of the same. But you never know. In the first 5 minutes, I felt Dundee United tried to apply a higher press and tried to put us under a bit of pressure. And you have to expect that because they offered virtually nothing in the first half. So you think Jim Goodwin's right to send a rocket up them at half time to come out and do something a bit different. And like I say, it lasted all of about 5 minutes, but we weathered that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was. And then, like I say, back to creating chances again. So that was the positive thing. The substitutes were obviously rung. So around the 60-minute mark, which again was something that Wilfred wasn't a big sort of, big proponent of. So we had Nygren and Donovan coming on at 60 minutes for Raho and Hatate. And I think, for me, we've now sort of clearly established it's either Nygren or Hatate in the starting lineup. You can't have both. Because Nygren effectively is a number 10. Whether he's told to play that position or not, you're right, Paul. He picks up really good positions around the box. He's not got an engine. He can do short pressing if, around their back line, but in terms of expected to do proper midfield work, I just don't actually think he's physically capable, not against better teams anyway. But in this situation, when you're playing against teams like this and you're creating a ton of chances, he's the sort of guy you want in and around the box because he will pick up these pockets. And like I said, he was literally on them part 2 minutes here, and he's in the right position. And you kind of felt Hatate could have been on for another 3/4 of an hour and still not look like scoring a goal sort of thing. Some of his, like I say, some of his deeper build-up play was fine, but he's shooting and he's finishing has sort of escaped him this season. And that's Nygren now 9 goals in the league. So he's our top goal scorer. For someone who at times is frustrating on the eye, like you say, this is a bit of composure to get this ball in the back of the net sort of thing. So yeah, so like I said, so I'm definitely, it's one or the other. And I think it'll be a horses for courses type situation depending on who you're playing against. But when you get your top goal scorer coming off the bench, that's not a bad situation to be in either, I guess. So we've got that one there, Paul, and then basically the next set of images I've got is the Maeda goal. So the subtitles are on here as well, so it's even helped me out. So and this is how the BBC commentator pronounces Nygren. So Yang to Nygren. And then so Nygren has got the ball here. And then he plays the ball into Is this Andy Ingles?
No, this is
Yeah.
Sebastian Tenecti's come off the wing and he fancies himself for a shot.
Yeah. And then this is the one. Sorry, I apologize. This is the one where the keeper's made a bit of a meal of it, and Maid is the first to react. Because by this point, all the Dundee United defenders have just given up the ghost, and Maeda absolutely rattles it into the back of the net. And you can see here clearly onside when Tenecti has his shots, so no issues there. But yeah, there's obviously a hint of frustration with Maeda. Obviously missed chances throughout the game, and obviously again being asked to play centre forward when he's probably not a centre forward. He probably could be the alternative to Tenecti on that left hand wing position, but it's needs must at the moment, and he gets his reward for probably what he probably sees as a frustrating afternoon. But take it.
Yeah, no, it's one of those. He has had a frustrating time of late. He still chipped in with some goals during Nancy's period, but this is just a bunch of frustration coming out, not just on the day, but over a number of games, I would say. And he lashed it into the net, and then I think the commentator that I was watching said, "Oh, you'll be really pleased with that." And they did a close up of his face, and he looked anything but pleased. Good finish. One he should be making, but yeah, another decent team goal. Obviously, Sebastian Tenecti gets the ball out of his feet, makes a space, he's been setting his teammates up all afternoon that haven't taken what he's created for them. So he thought he'd have a dig himself, and it's down low. The keeper should probably push it further away, but he's tested him, and unfortunately for the keeper, it's broken out. And Amaya is first to react, as he often is, anger and frustration lashes it into the net. And then I was an opportunity, I think, from there to ring the changes again, and another 3 subs come on at that point.
McCowan for Kenny on, Yang, Tenecti, and Maeda off. And then there was really one real main chance after that. Question mark on whether he was offside, because the angle, I think it would have been tight. He probably was just off. But this is Johnny Kenny, salute McCowan. The ball just didn't sit for McCowan here. So McCowan, in an ideal world, would have played this ball, I think, a second earlier, but it sort of bobbled up. So it didn't really sit down for him terribly well. So probably a slight delay in playing the pass. I mean, hard to say at this angle. I think he might just have been off, but ball just played through. But the critical thing here is that he misses anyway. The keeper
makes it another good save. And I think it was given offside on pitch after the save was made. He probably just his leading shoulder was probably a bit further along than the defender's backside, so he probably would have been off. We didn't create anything overly clear cut after that. He kind of played quite well within ourselves there. I was kind of hoping that, with 5 new subs on the pitch, a few of them might want to push on and try and add a 5th. And I think that was there for us. If we had put, under Ange, for example, he would have just had them go until hell for leather till the end. But I suppose it's a bit more practical to go, well, we've taken 4, banked a clean sheet, keep that intact. Which I think there was one late chance for United, or a half chance that we kind of stuffed out, and sort of move on. And not get any injuries, which is the way things are at the minute. That winning games and not getting injuries is probably the 2 key things. I just wanted to have a bit of commentary on the subs, not so much, I guess, the performance of the subs, but when they were made and who they were. I thought it showed really good man management and quite astute man management by O'Neill, because the nature of him changing the formation meant that players who, as bad as things have been under Wilfred Nancy, there's players that have been getting starts and game time, and under O'Neill now they're potentially not going to be getting games and starts. And so to manage that, like Kenny obviously started getting changes, but he comes off the bench when we're already 4-0 up, gives him if there's any time he's going to get a goal, that's probably it, right? So it's a risk-free substitution. It gives him 20-odd minutes. So I thought that was good in terms of trying to build Kenny's confidence. Obviously didn't get a goal, but he looked lively, did a couple of link the play. I think we don't want to be asking him to lead the line that often. Maybe he might get asked to lead it against Auchinleck Talbot potentially to try and build some confidence if we've not got a striker in by then, which, let's be honest, we probably won't have. Donovan, as you say, has been missing out under Nancy, so he got an opportunity, and I thought that was great. Benjamin Negrin has obviously been starting under Nancy and is our top goal scorer, so he could have felt a little bit aggrieved to be left out, but he gets to come on and he scores a goal almost immediately. And then, as we know from the interview last week that Luke McCowan, and we could tell just by looking at him, he's been cutting a massively disconsolate figure as a Celtic fan and been played badly out of position. There was the option to put Bernardo on or somebody else off the bench, but to put McCowan back in a position that he's more familiar with probably helps rebuild his confidence and do that right. And then we found out obviously this week through Stephen McGowan's article that even James Forrest was getting told off or talked down to in training ground stuff. So to give Jamesy a bit of game time as well, I thought that was, we're going to need him in and around the group, positive, even if he doesn't play much. So I think, I just thought classic Martin O'Neill, really strong man management, astute leadership. And you could see from the first few minutes that team looked night and day different in terms of confidence, happiness, desire, ability, a desire to play for each other, desire to find a teammate, and they just look more comfortable in terms of they're being asked to play the positions that they have done for most of their career instead of doing something else. So it's a long way from perfect, but it's a long way further forward from where we've been over the last few weeks. So as you said, we obviously put a critical eye on this, so there will be some criticism on bits and pieces of players and the game, but as I said at the top of the show, about as good as we could have hoped for in the circumstances, and the manager and the squad deserve reinforcements to give them the best opportunity to win however many tournaments they can between now and the end of the season.
I think as well, Paul, taking 4 off a team at home just builds the fear factor back up, because the other issue with having such a run of terrible results is that teams would come to Celtic Park fancying themselves. So you want them now coming in going, oh, it's damage limitation. Like, we want them fearing the worst when they come back to Celtic Park. So that doesn't happen with one result, but it's a start. And I just think that we've got to build that fear factor back up again, so they know that if they're not going to play well, that they could get absolutely scalped. So I think that's important as well. So a lot of positives. And like I said, night and day from where we were a week could go, which is the roller coaster ride of being a Celtic supporter in the 25-26 season. Paul, we'll do man of the matches. I've got my man of the match. So I'll let you go first. And I've got a feeling we might be aligned. We haven't spoken about this before we came on air, so I don't know who you're going to say, but
no, we haven't. I think at halftime there's 2 or 3 candidates, and certainly an honourable mention to Yang, who not only scored the opener, which was crucial, and was positive all day long. He's just been getting better and better at this since he's been back in the team. And if Wilfred Nancy did anything right, I think forcing him to have a continued run in the right wing back role has increased his confidence on that side. And it's certainly, obviously, given the defensive responsibilities he had, he's become a much better defender, and is working back in the 60 odd 70 minutes he was on the pitch yesterday was phenomenal. He defended really well.
There was he ran all the way back and won the ball back cleanly. So not give a foul away, won the ball back.
Second half, early second half, I think it was. Right back to the right back position. Second half, and then we burst forward, and I was like, well, he's not going to be joining that attack. He'll be absolutely knackered. He ran from about their 18-yard line right back to our right back corner. So he was fantastic. Really pleased for him and the team. But I think based on overall performance, covered every blade of grass. It wasn't perfect, give the ball away here and there, and it's a lot of lost control here and there, but was, as you said, instrumental in everything that was good that we did for most of the day. Topped it off with a great finish and a goal. So Arne Engels is my man of the match, and I think will probably be yours too.
We're on a unity ticket on that one this week. So Arne Engels, I thought he had a really great game, and to get the goal as well. I think that's just that's hopefully the start of things to come for him, is that starting to score those goals in open play. Because he's definitely got it in his locker. He just, but if he can start doing that, that was the Matt O'Reilly evolution. It was sort of like, Matt O'Reilly was doing everything but getting the ball in the back of the net, and then he started doing that, and it was that was the big sort of change up for him, and sort of took him to another level. So hoping that will be the same thing for him. Paul, have you any musical or recommendations of any description this week?
Yeah, no albums this week, but Travis are out playing Australian shows. Now, I think there's 2 or 3 shows left in the tour. My understanding is that they may not all be sold out. There might be a handful of tickets left. I went to see them on Thursday night, which was the first night of the tour. And I'm still coming back from knee surgery. It was a bit of a sore one the next day as I stood on my feet for 3.5 hours or whatever. Because the support act's a guy called
Was it worth it?
It was certainly worth it. So the support act's a guy called Josh Pike. He's a sort of one man on a guitar and loop pedal and a bit of mouth organ and harmonica as well. He's been around a long time, Aussie guy from the East Coast. He was on my radar probably mid-2000s. A mate put me onto him, and I sort of lost awareness of him. But yeah, I've realised he was on the tour, so we got along early to watch him. He's excellent. Set us up well for Travis. And given what's been going on in the past week, obviously touched on the funeral and death of my mate, I wasn't really in the best of frame of mind or mood for going to the gig. And I haven't really listened to much Travis for, well, probably the best part of 20 odd years. So, but we bought the tickets a few months ago, and me and my mate, a couple of mates, were going to go along. And I'll be honest, sometimes you go to shows and you got a pretty low expectation, not in terms of how the quality of them, just that you're not really that in the mood for it. It was a fantastic gig and a really good night. So they're playing the Man Who, so their biggest album, their second album, the one that sort of blew them up big in the late 90s. 99 that album came out. And they played it in its entirety, but they also played it, Fran Healy, the lead singer, had sort of done a makeshift PowerPoint. So they had the title of each song up and then some key images about that time and sort of walked you through when it was written, what it was how he was thinking, how he was feeling, all that. So it wasn't talking for hours, but he was just like kind of positioning how the songs had come about. And I thought that really added something to the overall sort of show and the delivery. And then the songs still stand up for themselves, like it was both the support act and Fran went, any Scots in? Of course, so it's Perth, right? Well, Fremantle. So yeah, most of the crowd I think were Scottish. The bar seemed to be busy, so I assume so. And yeah, belting out, those big hits. So really, really like a proper life affirming night, which is probably what I needed. So yeah, if you're in other parts of Australia and the shows are still to come, I'd highly recommend getting along to Travis and get along early to see Josh Pike if you can. So that's my little localized recommendation. And I don't know if they're going to go take that tour back to the UK and Europe later in the year. They probably will. I guess they're testing. I know we were the first night of the tour, and it's the first night you tried that format of talking through each song. So I guess they might polish that up, and I would expect that probably end up in Europe later in the year. So yeah, if you don't get to see it in Australia, then you're up the other end of the world, have a look there. But yeah.
Very good.
I'll be back. I'm sure we'll be back into new albums as new albums are released in the next few weeks. We'll go back to album reviews, but yeah, that's probably it for me for this week.
No, fair enough. Season 2 of The Pit dropped yesterday, so I managed to finish season 1 the day before yesterday. Doubling down on it, it's very, very good. You should watch it. And I'll start season 2 today.
I've got a TV recommendation. We're not on it. We're not started it yet, but we are rewatching The Night Manager from 2016, which was excellent back then. Stacked cast, led by
Tom
Hiddleston. But yeah, stacked cast and really good that time around. And I sort of heard rumors for a little while that there was potentially going to be a sequel, and lo and behold, it's just dropped. So we are because it's a decade between seasons. Don't keep busy. So yeah, we haven't watched anything in season 2, but if it's even a patch on season 1, it'll be well worth your time. So yeah, we're watching.
What's that on, Paul?
In Australia, it's on Prime.
Right.
It's on Prime, but I'm sure it's available in other jurisdictions or via other routes to television, if that is your preferred way to watch TV.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We'll be back live and dangerous a week on Monday, covering the Scottish Cup 4th round.
Yep.
Auchinleck Talbot, getting played at Rugby Park. Always fun venue, that one. So we're back covering that in our usual format, live and dangerous. So we appreciate your understanding this week. Please, like I said, if you've got any comments, leave them in the comment section of the YouTube video. I read all the comments. Yeah, I say appreciate your feedback. And yeah, we will be back doing that as per normal in just over a week's time. So Paul, all that's left to say in the meantime is hail, hail.
Hail, hail.